Week 4 box office numbers are all in, and it is another bad week for Captain Marvel against Wonder Woman, not only in the box office but also on Rotten Tomatoes. Captain Marvel is rotten once again. It is 58% on Rotten Tomatoes versus the 88% that Wonder Woman is on for the audience score. Now, this 58% is the protected score. That is the high score that they've managed to push it up to, only to 58%. We could sort of reconstitute some of the votes that were purged out, some of the want-to-sees and do-not-want-to-sees that were removed. If we if we put back in the 58,000 or so votes that were there, it will take us to something like 49% liked it for the audience score. So in theory, you could argue that the Captain Marvel score is really 49%, but what is displayed on Rotten Tomatoes right now, 58%, rotten once again. In week 4, Captain Marvel took in $28,145,748. That compares to Wonder Woman's week 4 total of $37,324,317. That's a 37% reduction for Wonder Woman from week 3 to week 4, and a 40% reduction from week 3 to week 4 for Captain Marvel. So very similar reductions in percentages, but because Wonder Woman earned more money in week 3, obviously she still continues to earn more money in week 4. This weekend will be interesting to see what Captain Marvel actually does. There's direct competition, the first time so far in a run, with Shazam, so another superhero film that may slightly reduce the numbers from what would be expected, but maybe not, because the earnings are so low right now. It might not really matter what other films are out. If people are going to see Captain Marvel, it'll probably be someone seeing it for the second or third time and may not be influenced by what's out. Same goes when Endgame comes out. That might not really affect Captain Marvel's box office. In fact, I've said before, it may boost it a little bit. There may be some people that haven't seen Captain Marvel, like what they see in Endgame with Captain Marvel, and then go and see the film. Perhaps that might happen. Anyway, at this stage, I'm predicting it'll get around about $11.6 million for the weekend box office, but it really depends what the official figures for Friday are. Again, it could be lower than that because of Shazam, but I don't think it will. So 11.6, well, let's just say $11 million, or $12 million, I suppose. We'll round it up to $12 million for the weekend for Captain Marvel. And that is against the $15,706,011 that Wonder Woman earned. So somewhere in the neighborhood of $3 to $4 million extra for Wonder Woman, but we'll see how accurate that is after the Friday figures come in. So Captain Marvel's total has now moved up to $361 million for the US domestic market, and it's close enough now so that we can see both it and Wonder Woman on Box Office Mojo's page all at once. So we can see that right now, according to Box Office Mojo, the non-inflation adjusted US domestic totals have got Wonder Woman as the 25th biggest film ever with $412 million, and Captain Marvel, now we can see it on the same page, is number 45 with $361 million. So still a fair gap there, about $60 million or $50 million there between them. Still a long way for Captain Marvel to go, but obviously this is the non-inflation adjusted totals, the pretend totals. So if we go to Box Office Mojo and look at its inflation-adjusted totals for the US domestic market, we can see Wonder Woman is the 128th biggest film of all time. It drops from 25 to 128. And we can see Captain Marvel is the 186th biggest film ever in the North American market. Obviously, Captain Marvel's still earning a bit of money, so it'll move up from there, but it's still a very, very, very wide gap between Wonder Woman and Captain Marvel. And on the inflation-adjusted total world grosses, we can see that Captain Marvel has moved up from number 100, and it is now the 99th biggest film of all time. It moved through the $1 billion barrier, surpassing the Jungle Book. That's the Jungle Book from 2017. A little bit underneath that is the Jungle Book from 1967. And so next in line is Attack of the Clones. It has got $1.009 billion, about $3 or $4 billion in front of Captain Marvel. Did I say billion? $3 or $4 million in front of Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel will get that this week. I mean, it will get close to that probably on Friday, but depending on when the international numbers come in or not, it won't move ahead officially on Friday. So probably Saturday or Sunday is when it will move past Attack of the Clones, and it may also move past Twister at that point in time, and also maybe go past Transformers Revenge of the Fallen. So it might be somewhere around 96th biggest film of all time at the end of the weekend. Now, on Monday, when they announce the estimated foreign numbers, that's generally when they come in. It may go up a bit more after that, but it's very difficult to know what will happen with the international numbers. And again, Shazam will be released pretty much everywhere this weekend, so that may affect the international earnings of Captain Marvel. It may not. It's very difficult to see what exactly will happen internationally with Captain Marvel. And if we take another look at the Captain Marvel against Batman v Superman chart, we can see here that Captain Marvel's still expanding on the lead over Batman v Superman. It is flattening out a lot now. There's very little money getting earned day to day now. It's into its fourth week. After the first 2 weeks, films really earn a lot less, and fourth week, very, very, very little amount of money is being earned by pretty much every film. You can see how flat Batman v Superman went as well. And on this chart, once again, we have Wonder Woman, Captain America Civil War, Captain Marvel, and Batman v Superman. And we can see that Captain Marvel really isn't getting any closer to Captain America Civil War. Now, it actually is getting closer. It's very difficult to tell on the chart, but practically speaking, it's not really getting closer at all. So it's inching its way towards it, but very hard to tell just on the chart without looking at the raw numbers. And you can see quite clearly the blue line is gaining on the yellow line. So Wonder Woman keeps decreasing the lead that Captain Marvel has over it. And as I've said for nearly a month now, Wonder Woman will earn more money than Captain Marvel unless something unexpected happens with the Captain Marvel box office. Wonder Woman will cross that yellow line at some point in time. This chart here has got Iron Man 3 on it in addition to Captain America Civil War and Captain Marvel, and here you can see more clearly Iron Man 3 closely creeps towards the red line, and Captain Marvel is basically keeping pace with the Iron Man 3 line. So it's maybe easy to see on this that Captain Marvel is getting closer to Captain America Civil War, but it's not really getting there that quickly, and at this stage it's probably not going to close the gap between itself and Iron Man 3, at least not in any big way. So the gap that we have right now, that may very well be pretty much what Captain Marvel's US domestic box office total ends up with compared to what Iron Man 3 got and compared to what Captain America Civil War got. I think they're around about $1 million difference between those two films. And on this chart here, we've got two lines. The line at the top is the difference in box office earnings at the same point in time between Iron Man 3 and Captain Marvel. The purple part are the actual numbers to date, and the green part is my projections for what will happen over the next 2 weeks, over the next 14 days. So you can see on the purple line that Iron Man 3 had a bit of a lead, more than $20 million. Then Captain Marvel moved into it, moved back against it. Then it moved back down. Then it moved back up. Then it moved back down, but not quite as much. Then it moved back up, and then it moved down again, and now it's going to kind of go up. But if my projections hold out, you can see on the green line, which is the bit I'm projecting, the green line's not real numbers, the purple line are the real numbers. On the green line, you can see it kind of flattens out a bit there. So it'll get to be within about $11 million, and then it will slowly move down to around about $12 million. Now, all of this is hinged upon the Friday earnings coming up for Captain Marvel. If it's a lot bigger than expected, that line will completely change, and if it's a lot worse, it'll go down. But using this, let's just say that this is accurate, it means that Captain Marvel's really going to earn something like 11 or 12 or $13 million less than Iron Man 3. So if this all holds up. So Iron Man 3, I think, got $409 million in the US domestic market. And so if we take $10 million off that, we've got $399. Maybe it'll be $13 million off, so $396. Somewhere around there at this stage, that's what it's looking like for me. So somewhere south of $400 million, but not that far from $400 million. So about 3.5 weeks ago, I predicted that Captain Marvel would earn $382 million, so that's a little bit off, probably about $10 or $15 million off that total there, but I still think it'll earn less than $400 million. The second part here on the graph are the differences between Wonder Woman's box office at the same point in time and Captain Marvel. The red line is the actual numbers, the actual real stuff, and the blue line are my projected numbers over the next 14 days. So we can see that Wonder Woman, as it stands right now, is just under $30 million behind where Captain Marvel is, and that will keep getting eaten away if things continue on until it actually goes over the top of the Captain Marvel total. And you can see in the next 2 weeks, the gap between Captain Marvel and Wonder Woman will be bigger than the gap between Captain Marvel and Iron Man 3. So that's where I'm predicting at this point in time that those gaps will sort of reverse around the way. And again, Wonder Woman earned $412 million, and I think at this stage it looks like Captain Marvel will get under $400 million. So therefore, right now, at this stage, it looks still, as I've been saying for about a month, that Wonder Woman will earn more money than Captain Marvel in the US domestic box office. So for Friday for Captain Marvel, I'm predicting about $3.3 million. So let's just call it $3.5 million. So somewhere under $3.5 million is what I think Captain Marvel will get for Friday. And obviously, if it's a lot more than $3.5 million, then all these numbers need to be revised one way. And if it's a lot less than $3.5 million, it needs to be revised down the other way. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you next time.